Hi, and thank you for your time, Michael.
Okay.
Exciting news. Brand new level, 2025. Enjoyable. Can you please tell us a little bit about this level?
Yeah. Each time we do a new level, it's a little difficult to explain the concept behind it. But the whole level is called Enjoyable. And it's this second title is Fun, Deep Tips for Enjoying Your Life More. And what I realized is if you follow the DCI levels carefully, and if you just take the different levels and you try to practice the different levels, then there's kind of this grand result that your life gets more and more enjoyable, just deeply enjoyable. And that's what the whole level is about. There's 12 different levels, 12 different levels of enjoyable inside of advanced level 5.
On a first glance, it would seem that joyfulness, similar to gratitude, can be seen as something superficial, corny.
Yeah.
And I know because of the materials that you use, the source materials, that this is not the case. Can you please tell us more about that?
Yeah, I was very hesitant to create a level called Enjoyable. And I thought people would think it was just shallow. And, it's this kind of thing where just try to be more happy or something like that. But it's not about that at all. When I say enjoyable, it means enjoying very deep levels of success, long-term, very major success over a long period is intensely enjoyable. That's the idea.
So way more depth.
Yeah, and it is 12 different flavors of enjoyable. The reason why people don't go to Harvard Business School and study 12 levels of enjoyable is maybe because they haven't experienced it. You see what I mean? So I think the cool thing about this level is that you're talking about 12 flavors of deep enjoyment that many people never have in their whole life. So imagine, first of all, that you're getting to a kind of enjoyment that you never expected in your life. And then it's got 12 different flavors to it, 12 different deeper levels of it. And it's so new and it's so unusual that there's a whole course on how to feel those 12 different kinds of enjoyment.
I know we started talking about this ancient idea, beautiful idea called joyful effort in the previous interview. And as we said, you had defined it in the past as working really hard to help other people. Is this similar? Is this one of the inspirations for this, or can you please tell us more about that?
I think I'll say it. I think I'll put it a different way. There's a fundamental division in the ancient teachings, the highest ancient teachings. There's a fundamental division between what they call creation stage and then sort of completion stage. So creation stage means when you're working to get successful, and it's the process of working to be successful. Then completion stage means it's the whole study of how it feels to be successful. And so you could see this new DCI level as completion stage, meaning you're already successful and already your life is amazing. And then there's 12 different kinds of amazing. And I think, again, because most of us never get that successful where we have any of those 12 kinds of enjoyment, when you do get there, and there's 12 levels of tasty. There's 12 different layers of delicious in the personal experience that it's just foreign to everyone. It's this, I think, usually you get stuck with trying to explain levels to people as the DCI boss. And I think it's going to be a challenge, I think. But I think that's a useful distinction that's made in the ancient teachings. Creation stage means I'm working to achieve success. And then completion stage means what are the different amazing feelings you have after you reach success. And that's what Advanced Level 5 is about. And it can be aspirational. There are whole books written about completion stage for people who never got there.
Right.
And it's just to make you hungry to get there. So if someone sits and explains to you 12 different kinds of enjoyment you're going to get, then you're more willing to work to get it. Either this person's crazy and there's no such thing as 12 levels of enjoyment, or maybe this person knows what they're talking about and it sounds tasty to me. It sounds delicious to me. I'd like to try that. So that's kind of what this video is about.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so I think that people can have a much better taste of the type of joy you're talking.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's 12 distinct, enjoyable emotions. And again, because most of us never get there, we don't even understand. We don't understand the idea. So is it a business course? Yes. Is it a personal development course? Yes. What's it about? It's about something you never heard of yet. And not only that, but it's 12 different levels inside of what you never experienced yet. And I think when you I know you go to an ice cream shop, 31 flavors in America, and you taste some of the flavors, and then you go tell your friend about them. It's kind of like 31 flavors. It's kind of like, look, there's all these different flavors of enjoyment if you know how to reach it. And so, of course, the course itself includes methods of reaching those 12. So it's not just a book describing 12 kinds of enjoyment you can reach in your life. It's a book about, here's 12 different flavors of enjoyment, and here's how to reach each one. Yeah, we're like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that you're going to tell us about how to mix these different levels of joy with the seed system, mainly how to plant seeds or emptiness, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. But this that ancient tradition of we call creation stage and completion stage, it was handed down quietly. It was not. It wasn't something that was a big movement, or it wasn't a public movement. It was kind of a movement that was passed on between people personally. And that's just how it came to be for the last 2,000 years. It was passed down this way. And I'd like to point to one of the life tools that I think kind of gives you a taste for it. And that's the second life tool, which is not something you would expect in a business personal success course, which is lucid dreaming. So it's a whole life tool about the skill of lucid dreaming. And, lucid dreaming, it sounds like some kind of new age thing. And, you can go into this dream state and wonderful things will happen to you. It's not like that at all. It's where you go to sleep, and during your sleep, you get amazing new ideas, and then in your sleep, you record them, and and then when you wake up, the package is all finished, and you just take that. This is advanced level 5. This envelope was next to my bed on my night table, and so to write a course that included lucid dreaming, I did lucid dreaming for the course. You see what I mean? And then I woke up after 3-4 hours of dreaming, lucid dreaming, and the course was finished. And I just wrote it down on the envelope and went back to sleep. And that's this. This is the whole course. And I wanted to mention one more thing, that this idea of lucid dreaming is interesting because you can develop a whole business course or personal success course during your dream time, but at the same time, you get totally rested. Okay, so it's interesting. You are multitasking. You are creating during your dream hours, but they are deeply restful. And you wake up completely rested, and your work for the day is done. So it's and that's very enjoyable. So that's just one of the 12 life tools, and that again, that comes from an ancient tradition of lucid dreaming that's about 1,000 years old, and so I think it's a wonderful tool. You wake up more rested, but you also wake up with a clear plan for some new project you'd like to work on, and then you just do it, and it's very successful, and all kinds of success come. Big financial success, but also personal happiness, a sense of fulfillment and a personal sense of contributing to the world. Those are somehow financial success and the feeling that you're doing something for the world are both it's like having a lot of money. Either one feels like you have a lot of money. Like that.
So the way I know that usually on all of the levels, you take concepts that are well known in the world, but you give it your own twist. So for example, for me, when I hear of lucid dreaming, it's all about realizing that you're dreaming, therefore using the power of your subconscious. But this has nothing to do with that, right?
This level was difficult to write because it's an idea that the whole foundation of the level is backwards. So most personal development courses, business courses, they are teaching you techniques to be more successful. And then there's not a lot of time. You don't go to Harvard Business School. You learn techniques to be successful in business. And then there's no separate course called How Does It Feel to Be Successful? But in DCI, this is a whole course about how does it feel to be successful. And there's 12 different aspects or 12 different discrete, they're separate, very enjoyable aspects to this kind of success. And because the success that we're talking about is planted with seeds, you're actually planting 12 kinds of enjoyment that you will have along with the financial success and along with personal success. You will have these different feelings of satisfaction by the end. And I assert that those feelings of satisfaction or enjoyment are happiness. That's what happiness is. Happiness is not having a certain amount of money in the bank. Happiness is how do you feel about that,
Right.
and how do you feel about the process by which you got the money. And so the goal of this level is, yes, we talk again about the technique to be successful, but then we talk a lot about how does it feel by the time you get to the end? How does it feel personally? And that is missing completely in a business school, for example. They don't have a course called How It's Going to Feel at the end when you're successful. There's no such course because I think there's no such goal. There's no clear goal that you should be a very happy person by the time you are successful from your MBA studies. You see what I mean? It's not a clear goal of an MBA program that by the end of the process, you should have any kind of deep feelings of enjoyment, much less 12 different, distinctive, different feelings of enjoyment. And by the way, it was very difficult to give them names, because they're kind of not things that most people ever experience in their life. But there's 12 different, it's very similar to ice cream, They're all delicious, but each one is different, and distinctively different. And so I thought it's just wonderful to sit down and it's, to me, if I was a DCI student or DCI client and I could just sit down and hear about 12 different kinds of enjoyment that are waiting for me, I would be so happy to work towards that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, I like it.
I want to go back a little bit to something you were mentioning before. So you said that in this tradition, normally these ideas are passed down in smaller groups.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, I know that you're not the kind of person that would just do something randomly.
Yeah.
There's a purpose and probably a time for this. Can you tell us why you decided to, if the normal tradition is to pass it down in smaller groups, to do it as a DCI level, that thanks to our organizer, we are able to reach around 100, have been able to reach around 140,000 people.
Yeah. By the way, that's thanks to you also. Thank you for that. I think what really triggered this level was, to be honest, just my own personal life, that I was reaching this deep levels of enjoyment. And then I suddenly became aware that there's different flavors of that enjoyment. And then it was sort of a, what do you call that?
Backtracking?
You steal somebody's pump and you figure out how to...
reverse engineering?
Yeah, reverse engineering how my own feelings are going. And so my own life is extremely enjoyable. And I was thinking it would be nice to reverse engineer that and be able to help people get there faster by developing techniques aimed at each flavor of enjoyment, or each different flavor of enjoyment. Yeah. So it was even difficult to name them and to separate them from each other, but I did it.
I know that this is kind of obvious, but it's always good to mention it. How is this level different than any other DCI level?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we cover how it's different from the rest of the courses in the world, let's say. But how is this different than the other DCI levels?
again, I'll go back to this idea of what they call creation stage and completion stage. And I think most of the DCI levels so far, the emphasis has been on methodology. Like, what do I do to reach my financial goals? What do I do to reach my personal family goals? What do I do to reach feelings of happiness in this life? How do I reach good health, for example? We have courses designed to help people get to that. And the courses emphasize technique necessarily. Each course is a list of techniques. And then there's a tradition in the ancient literature of examining where you will get to and how does it feel. How does it feel? And they say use the path as the goal. Use the goal as the path. So if someone sits and describes to me the 12 flavors of enjoyment that I will experience by the end of the DCI process, all of the courses, there's 12 levels of enjoyment that you will reach. Studying the kinds of enjoyment that you will reach is a powerful method to reach them. You see what I mean? We call it to use the result as the path. And so I thought it was time after after 16 DCI levels, I thought it would be useful to reverse it and talk about the result. And I think there's a tradition of getting the student hungry for a certain result. Like you spend the whole course to describe how you're gonna feel when you get there, and then people are willing to work harder to get there. So that's the point of this course. And it wasn't. It's just a time in my own personal life when I'm feeling intense enjoyment, and I thought to write about that and to try to share it.
When you mentioned using the goal as a path, for those of us who are not there yet, how would you encourage us if there's a fear of, well, necessarily you would need to kind of pretend or fake something, the fear of just planting seeds of fakeness as opposed to real, how do you address that fear?
There's actually a word in the ancient language, chirlanganyanjor, which means the path of pretending. And it's kind of a healthy pretending, like maybe once in a while. I think every young businessman or businesswoman who decides to start a company, for example, in the back of their mind, they have some goal, some finished state in mind. Like, nobody can put all that effort into a new project that might take years unless they have a strong picture in their mind of what they want to be at the end. How do they want to be by the end? So everyone who works hard to be successful, I think necessarily has some kind of mental imagination of what that success would feel like. And then they work hard to reach it. It's never exactly the same. The finished product is never exactly what you thought, but it's similar. It can be very similar. So it is useful to spend time on understanding not just the physical state of success, how much money you have, how many houses do you have, how many companies do you have. That's physical. But I think many of us, like in business school, I don't think they have a course called where you study for a week or two how you're going to feel by the time you get there. And that's the goal of this course.
Yeah, I can tell you, I studied business as bachelor and as a master's.
Yeah.
There's nothing remotely close to that.
No. Yeah. And by the way, the reason is that it's also kind of, what do you call it? It's a kind of arrogance. It's a healthy arrogance to say, I'm going to teach you how it feels to be successful. I'm going to teach you how you're going to feel by the end. I think you'd have to be pretty confident about your success to even propose such a course. Yeah.
Some people say, if people are doing quite well in aspects of their life, wealth is abundance, good relationships, good health, and loving the work they're doing, how can this course help me? Do I need to take this course?
Oh yeah, good question. Good question. If you can already identify 12 different flavors of enjoyment that you have experienced because of your career and your family life, then you don't need to take the course. Yeah. But if you don't have 12 substantially different flavors of enjoyment going on in your life, then I think it would be useful to take the course, because even though we may succeed physically, and because of that we have some emotional feelings of happiness, they can be temporary, and they can also be incomplete. There can be flavors of enjoyment that we haven't even experienced yet. So I think it's useful to have a checklist of 12 kinds of enjoyment that I aspire to. I studied the 12 different flavors of enjoyment from my success just to make sure I got all of them.
Now, hearing more about this, it seems even the word enjoyable would not, it's far from what you're describing.
Yeah, I had a problem. I'm a person of words. I like words. I translate, half the day. I really enjoy words, and so it was a challenge to find the exact 12 different words. So I'll give you
please.
One would be called hungry. Life Tool 2 is called hungry. And it means you wake up and you're hungry for the day. Like, I can't help, I always wake up, I lucid dream often, and then I'm just so, then I say, I have to stay in bed for another 2 hours. And then I feel resentful that I can't get up and start doing all the fun stuff I want to do, And so I think this is called hungry for the day. Life Tool number 2 is called. And I'll give you 1 or 2 more. I would say everything just feels right. And that's a place you have when you had difficulty deciding what was the right thing to do, and you worked hard to find out what was the right thing to do, and then you found out and you did that thing, and after that you feel right. The world feels right, and you feel like you did the right thing. That's a different kind of enjoyment. You see, these are all different flavors of enjoyment. One more would be satisfied, but in the sense of I'm satisfied that I am doing my best to help other people. So that's a form of enjoyment, you see. So we all know how good it feels to help other people. And usually we haven't thrown ourselves into it so deeply that we feel like we finished. That's, I did a good job. I'm happy that I've been helping other people. But there's a point that you can reach, which is you don't feel satisfied in the sense that you want to stop helping other people. but you feel satisfied that you're doing your maximum possible level, and you feel what do you call it? You feel like you've call it self-fulfilled. You feel fulfilled. I am helping other people to the maximum that a person can do, and I enjoy that. That's deeply enjoyable, So that's just one. Those are just some examples.
So just to make this clear to our audience, so the type of enjoyment you're talking about is the type of enjoyment. If correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're on the path of being a sea practitioner, can you aspire to something higher than that?
Yeah, I got one for you. Life tool number 8. Okay, it is called. It's called I Know, but what it means is I know what the heck is going on. So it's a level of enjoyment where you feel like you finally know what's going on in this world or in your life. You know really what's going on, and then that creates a sort of heavy enjoyment. That you can keep it because it's based on something you worked hard and you came to understand. And in there are, I call it, the life tool is called 192. And it's 192 concepts from the 16 levels of DCI. So if you took all the life tools and you wrote a summary, and we actually created a game out of it. So life tool number 8 is a game that you can play with yourself. Do you know this game roulette wheel where you go gambling? I saw it in James Bond movies, which is before your time, but he goes to casinos a lot, and it was very elegant at the time. I don't think it is now, but it used to be wealthy people all dressed up, and they drink champagne and they go play this and it's a roulette game. So we developed a game that's based on the 192 life tools of DCI so far. And it's a fun game that you can play with yourself or play with your friends, and the better you get at the game, the more you realize you really know what the heck's going on. So I think there's a deep-seated, frustrated feeling that many people have. They call midlife crisis, and they used to call it midlife crisis in your 40s or something. And you have a crisis where you say, I really don't know what the heck's going on. I've been here for 40 years, and I still don't feel comfortable that I know what the heck's going on. So this life tool number 8 is exercises to reach a place where you feel like pretty confident what's going on in this world and this life and where you are and what you're supposed to do here. I think life tool 8 is that kind of deep enjoyment you get when you figured out what the heck is going on.
It seems that all of these are pretty advanced topics. What advice, how can a new, someone that is brand new, if that can use this level? Do you recommend this for someone who just...
I'd say it's, I studied with my teacher. Was an elderly wise man from Asia, and he had lived in the mountains his whole life. He had never seen a bicycle like that. He never saw an airplane. And then I had the funny duty of a 20-year-old, or I forget, I was 22 or 3. I had to introduce this person to the modern world. It was like someone time traveling to your time and then say, hey, tell me about your world, you know. So I had the opportunity to introduce the modern world to a very intelligent person. And it was really cool, you know, and so he had never had ice cream. And I'm like, let me take you somewhere. And he's like, what's that? I'm like, it's called 31 flavors, you know. And he says, well, what's that mean? And I said, this is an ice cream shop. He said, well, I never had ice cream. I said, yeah, I know. You're about to go into a shop that has 31 amazing different flavors of something you never had before. And he never finished trying all the 31 flavors in his lifetime. But he did get a deep appreciation for ice cream. You see, so I figure take someone to a place, introduce them to a special enjoyment shop that has 12 distinct flavors of enjoyment. And even for a person who never had deep enjoyment, give them any taste of any of the flavors, and they'll be an ice cream addict for the rest of their life. That's what happened to him. And so the idea is, even if you never heard of DCI anything, if you never went to a DCI program ever, and this 17th course is the first one you walk into, I think it's very appropriate and it might be a great place to start, is to start at the 31 flavors ice cream store. And then you can go back and finish the other ones. Yeah. I think it's fine. I think it's a great place to. We say starting at the end. Right. That's a great practice. Sometimes, if you have a good teacher. If not, you can get lost. Yeah.
Going a little bit on that same line and connecting it to what you previously talked about, using the goal as a path. Mm-hmm. How can we use this for a practical, how can you give it a practical use for our day-to-day life? To me, it seems that you're describing kind of like putting yourself the most delicious carrot to get you going. Yeah. But I know for sure, you said that there's a lot of benefits of starting that now, no matter where you are, even if it will take you a long time. Yeah. How can we start using those in our day-to-day life?
I think it's a good question. When I started this path, and when I started studying these things, in fact, this morning I was translating a book, and this last weekend I finished preparing a section of a book that I started 45 years ago. And there were problems with the book. The book is so ancient. It's 2,000 years old, almost 2,000 years old. And it had problems. All of the manuscripts, all of the carvings had problems. And it took me 45 years to figure them out. And 2 days ago, I figured out the last one. I finished. And so I had the experience 45 years ago of reading this manuscript, and I didn't know a single thing of what it was about. And it was the first book I ever studied of the ancient books. And later, much later, I learned, like in the last few years, 40 years later, I realized it's a tradition of this literature called Abhidharma. It's a tradition in the first few pages to have deep discussions about the last few pages. Okay, so, and this particular literature has its own terminology. It's like legal language, you know. It's like words that only lawyers know. So here you're a student, you're opening a book that was written almost 2,000 years ago, it's a tradition. And some people say it was a tradition to prevent lazy people from continuing. But they will discuss the fine points of the end of the book in the first few pages. You see what I mean? And then most people just get discouraged and give up. And then I suddenly realized that this is the charm of this particular literature. They flood you with things you never heard of and could not have heard of in the first few chapters. And most people will give up and most people will quit, you see. So that's the idea, kind of the idea of Advanced Level 5, is to flood people with descriptions of enjoyment that may take some time to develop. And the theory is that special people who have special seeds will be more attracted and be willing to work harder because they've got some advanced notice, what do you call it? Sneak peek of what's coming in the future. You know? So that's the theory of this book. It's very much a very ancient, unique study approach or personal development approach where you throw somebody into the deep end. And the people who are brave enough to swim, try to swim, they really, really benefit. And then maybe some people just say, look, I don't understand one of these 12 kinds of enjoyment. How about I take this course later, you know? But in my experience, if you're serious about your life, by the way, you have this one life, right? You have this one chance. And it goes by very, very fast. You know, I'm watching my wife's son and his wife, and they are 30 years old, 35 years old, and they have no clue that they just used up 35 years and that we don't know how many years they have left. And I say when you're alive and you're still breathing and, you know, you can still get to a DCI course, take it, you know, jump in and see what happens. And again, it plants deep seeds for the future. Okay, it's a very, you can say I have no idea these 12 kinds of enjoyment are, but as soon as you start thinking about it, you are planting them.
And how would you advise us to start using this course? So let's say we just finish doing the course. What's your wish for what's next? So yeah.
The nature of one of these ancient books and the nature of this course is that nobody can do the whole thing. So that's the first thing you have to know about a DCI course. You know, nobody can master a DCI course the first time they take it or the 10th time they take it. Nobody can master it. And by the way, that's a good advertisement for taking the same course over again a few times, because they are so deep and there are so many levels of each course that profitably you can repeat the course several times and you will hear a different course each time. So that's, you know, that's the fact about Advanced Level 5 is that just jump in. There's a tradition in the Geshe course. So it's a 25-year course. There's a tradition, for example, that in their 5th year, you force a student to go once a week to a 15th year course, to sit in on a 15th year course. And I was forced. It happened to me. And the teacher grabbed me and said, "You're not going to class today." And you're like, really? And they said, no, I mean, you're going to a different class today. And you're like, well, where? And they say, you're going to sit in the back of the 15th year course today. And you're like, no, that's okay. I have trouble with the 5th year course. I don't think I want to go to the 15th year course. And they say, you were required today you're required to go to the 15th year course. And I remember I went in, I remember the room, I remember all the people, I remember the roof, what the roof looked like. And I remember sitting there and I didn't understand anything. You know, I didn't understand 10% of what they were talking about. And I sat there for 2 hours. And I paid attention. I was a good boy, you know. I like really paid attention. And then at the end I'm like, I don't understand much, you know. And they said, wait 10 years. You'll thank us later. This is your parents' famous quotation, right? You will thank me later. And so I remember when I got to the 15th year course, those seeds had flowered, and it was very easy for me. And so I think there's a deep benefit in this tradition to try to listen to things that you're not ready for yet. It's not like weightlifting. You know, someone gives you a 400-pound bench press and you can't do 100. You'll hurt yourself. The thing will come down on your chest and you'll break a few ribs, you know. I tried it. And yeah, you don't do that, but not in weightlifting, but in inner development. It's a very skillful means to jump into something that you really you're not ready for yet. And then that makes you ready. It helps plant the seeds to be ready. And it's required in the Geshe course. So I think it's a good thing for DCI students.
How to use this? So bringing it back to right now, it seems like a perfect time. The world, it seems, is I don't know. I haven't been alive for that long, but for sure is one of the darkest times that I've seen.
Yeah.
Wars now. I don't know. I kind of felt untouchable in the U.S., but no, it's not the case.
Yeah.
So it seems that historically we're going through a dark phase, and how can we use this course? How can we use it to? How can we use this in such intense times?
Yeah, there's an ancient book, very ancient book called Manjushri Nama Sangiti, which means chanting gentle names, and it's the opening lines when we were first developing this database to save the ancient books. So there are 300,000 ancient books, and our goal was and is to save all of them and to make them available for free in the world. And I asked my teacher, could you give us a motto or a name for some old quotation that we could use? And we actually used it recently in developing a university that we're working on. And it's kind of like Torch of Wisdom, Lamp for the World, or something like that. It's a very famous opening lines of this very famous ancient books. And there are dark times in the world. There are bad times in the world. There are dark days. They call dark days. And you don't really understand that when you're younger until you hit a period of darkness. And then you see how frightening and how terrible it is to see the world go dark. And this seed system, this knowledge of how to create a world with seeds, in those days, it is the only light. it is the real light that gives hope for people. So just when you think the world is getting pretty dark right now, and it is, the whole seed system is a light of hope, and there are days that are so dark, it's the only hope is to know that you can plant a different future. You can plant more light. And if we didn't have that one truth, then I'd say my brother committed suicide. My younger brother committed suicide. He was 21 years old. And there have been times in my life I was like, yeah, you got it right. It's just all darkness. And then I think about the seed system, and then everything's full of brightness and hope. And so I think any person who has heard the DCI principles has enough light for their own life, and you have enough light to share with other people. And there's a famous principle that light is stronger than darkness. Nobody carries darkness into a room that's too bright. You can't do that. But you can carry a light into a dark room, and the light will banish the darkness. And that's the situation now. As long as some people understand the seed system, it's not hopeless. The world is not hopeless. So I think we have to remember that. When it seems dark, we have to remember the nursing home, helping people at the nursing home. And then suddenly the light starts to spread. So we're, I think, fortunate in DCI that our whole business is light.
Yes.
And then to have that power to make light is the nature of light is that darkness cannot stand up to it. So as long as some of us are trying to study the seed system and making even inconsistent attempts to use it, still it's light. And I think if we remember that, we not only have hope, but we are sources of hope for other people, and they can feel it. And so I think when you feel like the world's getting pretty hopeless, I think a DCI person has to remember that you are light, and this idea about seeds is light. And so calm down. It gets dark sometimes, but you are light. If you understand the DCI principles, you are a source of light, and you can just be hopeful, and everything will be fine. The darkness cannot stand up against the light. It never does. It never lasts very long. Even world wars and things like that, they can't. The nature of darkness is it can't survive for very long because it's self-defeating. We're okay, but we still have to work.
Yeah. Yes. So we've been talking a lot about enjoyment, and so a very specific kind of enjoyment or specifics. What would you classify as unhealthy enjoyment, and how to help us build a compass to know which is which?
Yeah, good. Are there types of enjoyment that seem like enjoyment that are not enjoyment? And
yes.
What would that look like? I didn't get into it in this level, but I would say that any kind of enjoyment. But I have been recently translating a book with a friend of mine, Joe Shopping, about ethics, ancient book about ethics. And so it's a bit of an odd book because it's a list of 613, 13. 613 different ways we can hurt other people.
Mm.
You know? And that doesn't seem like it would be a very interesting topic, you know, to just talk about 613 ways you can hurt other people. But in the end, it's very, very joyful to have a list of guidelines that you could follow to not hurt other people. And so I would say that, and then strangely, when I was working on that book, I felt extremely happy. And it's just a bunch of rules, really. It's rules for behavior. And it doesn't seem like it would be like watching a good Netflix movie. But it was. And it felt very, very enjoyable. And there was a very deep statement in the book, middle of the book somewhere. And it said, the opposite of enjoyment is hurting anybody. You see? So if you recognize, if you study in advance 613 ways of hurting someone else, then you can have enjoyment. Then anything that is masquerading as enjoyment but hurts another person in one of these 600 something ways, that's not enjoyment. That's they call it masquerading as enjoyment. It looks like enjoyment. I don't know, getting very drunk and driving your car and thinking you're having fun when you're very drunk and you could kill somebody. That's enjoyment masquerading, you know, something it's selfishness and cruelty masquerading as enjoyment. And so I think, yeah, there are kinds of enjoyment that hurt other people. So as we mature in life, as we learn more about life, we have to become more sensitive to things that seem like enjoyment but really hurt other people. And I think alcohol is a good example.
I think that it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
What about some other things that might not be as obvious?
Yeah.
Like, for example, this person asked, is watching a movie an unhealthy type of enjoyment?
Oh, well, I'll say two things. Okay, number one, watching movies can go either way.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and you have to develop a wisdom about when to engage in entertainment as a healthy way of dealing with being tired. You know, so I have this discussion with my wife late at night. It's not quite time to go to bed. I am done. I can't look at one more page of DCIG. And I'm like, I'm done, honey. I need to watch and I need a dumb movie. I don't need even a good movie. I need a dumb movie, you know. And so we talk about that, and I think that's healthy. And then obviously there's times when you watch two movies or something like that, and they're not good movies, and they're even violent or something, and they actually hurt you. So I think you have to, over your lifetime, you have to develop some wisdom about what's going to hurt you and what's not going to hurt you, and that's just the living. You know, you have to live through disasters that you created yourself to know which things are not really helpful. That they're supposed to be enjoyable, but they're actually harmful. So I think you gain that practice. I don't know if any of us is wise enough to look ahead to when we are more intelligent and not do stupid things to ourselves. It seems like most human beings have to experience some kind of negative result. But at that point, you have a choice. You know, you can hurt yourself again, or you can learn from the experience and you can stop hurting yourself. So I think we have to cut ourselves some slack about hurting ourselves the first time, but then hurting yourself again the same way, that's just stupid. So, we gotta try to avoid that one.
Well, thank you very much. I think we've run out of time.
Yeah.
I just wonder if there's any last words, since this is a very special. Well, every advanced level is special, but being a new thing and a very special topic. Any other? I know there must be something that I haven't asked. What other advice would you have for people?
I'd say this, okay? There's certain kinds of happiness or goodness that are not very describable. You just have to taste it. I was translating today the definition of red, the definition of the color red in an ancient book. And the author finally said, you know what? Red is anything I point to and tell you that's red. There's no definition of red. Nowadays we can say a certain wavelength of light or something like that. That's will be experienced by many people, as read by many people. But in ancient times, there was a basic level of reality called color, red, and it cannot be defined. It can only be shared by experience. You have to go get a red apple and put it in front of the person and say, that's the color I'm talking about when I say red. That's red. And I think this DCI Advanced Level 5 is similar to red. In other words, the whole level attempts to describe to any person 12 different kinds of enjoyment that you can reach, But in the end, you just have to experience it, and then you will know. So really, the goal of Advanced Level 5 is to get you to get a feeling of those different 12 kinds of enjoyment so that you can reach them. And that it's one of those courses where only at the end of the process will you understand the course. So that's all. I think it's kind of exciting. It's a new adventure. It's a new adventure. The course is an adventure. It's not a normal course.
Sorry to take an extra minute, but
it's okay.
So it's safe to say that even we say that we've been everything countless times, but this is guaranteed something that definitely we have never tasted before. Correct?
I'd say generally, this particular course is something you couldn't guess ahead of time. That you probably haven't had that particular combination of flavors before. It's a new thing.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Yay.
Okay, thank you. Wow.